I want to show you how to manually trigger the workflow by manually selecting the list of contacts that you like to add to the interest checker workflow. Right now, I'm in the contacts page. You can see that there's a bunch of contacts. So what's going to happen here is you'll have to filter the contacts based on whatever conditions that you like to filter it by. By my case, I just want to send over one contact, okay? So this is a contact that I'd like to send over to the interest checker workflow. So let me click on this contact. Once done, all I have to do is to click on Add to Workflow. Once you click on Add to Workflow, you can see this dialog that asks you to fill up a form. For the form action name, let's give it something descriptive, right? Bulk Add to Workflow. Let me just add another identifier and call it interest checker. Okay, we're gonna need this later on to identify the bulk actions. The next thing that we need to do is to select the workflow, click on the workflow, and look for the workflow that represents the interest checker. Okay, in my case, it's gonna be interest checker. Next, select the start date. Okay, in my case, I want to start it at 26 Feb 3/27. Okay, this is the date that I want to start. For the batch quantity, I'm going to keep it as 1, and I suggest you keep it as 1 as well. For the time interval per batch, because I'm only going to be sending one contact, so it really doesn't matter to me. But what this means is for every batch, what is the gap before we send the next batch? So in this case, it's going to send one, and then for the next 5 minutes, it's going to send another one. For the next 5 minutes, it's going to send another one. Right? So batch quantity, keep it as 1. Time interval per batch, I'm going to keep it as 5 minutes. As for perform this action on which days, I'm going to select all days. As for the time window, I'm going to keep it as a default, which is from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. Just take note that if you attempt to send this contact to the workflow, let's say at 9 p.m., obviously it's outside of the time window. What will happen is that if it is outside the time window, it will then start to send the contact to the workflow at the next earliest time window, which is at 8 a.m. the next day. Okay, so now that you have configured the add to workflow form, configuration form, the next thing that you need to do is to click on add to workflow. Okay, so just click on add to workflow. Once done, you can see that bulk action has been scheduled. Add to workflow will perform over a period of time. You can click on check progress, which will bring you to the bulk actions page. So now that you are in a bulk actions page, you can see that your bulk action is now being queued. All right, so we're just gonna wait a couple of minutes before the contact is being sent over to this workflow. So I'll pause this video and I'll come back and check on it again in about 1 or 2 minutes. I have fast forward the time to about 1 minute later. Let me just refresh this bulk actions page. So now you can see that after I refresh the page, the status is now completed. It means that the contact has been added to the workflow that we have just specified earlier. So it means that the contact has entered the interest checker workflow. All right, so what do we expect from here? We should expect the contact to receive that first WhatsApp message. And that first WhatsApp message is to test their interest. Okay, let me navigate to WhatsApp, and we should see that the first message has been received by the contact. All right, so you can see that the contact has received the first message, hi Sarah, and so on. And this first message is asking the contact to choose an options to indicate where they stand. So what I'm gonna do right now is to respond with a natural language. I say something like, okay, let me think. Let me say something like, okay, sure. Okay, sure. Can you send me more info? Okay, if I were to send this response back as the person on the receiving end, what will happen is that the AI will most likely classify this as interested and also classified as the contact asking a questions. All right, so let's see whether that's actually true. Let me press send. Let's give it a moment for the workflow to respond back. All right, so you can see that the workflow has responded back. The workflow has correctly classified as interested question asked, and this is the message to be sent if we classify it as interested question asked. All right, so basically that's just how you can select a contact in the contacts page. So let's go to contacts page. Let me just do a quick recap. So basically you go to contacts page. What you'll do is that you will select the contact you would like to add to the workflow, click on add workflow, configure this particular form, and then click on add to workflow. And then the next thing you want to do is to check the bulk actions page and make sure that your bulk action has been scheduled, and you can come back to it later on in about 1 or 2 minutes, and it should change the status accordingly. All right, and once the contact has entered the interest checker workflow, the contact should receive the WhatsApp message. Okay, the next thing that I would like to basically bring it across to you is you can see that right now the workflow actually responded quite fast. In the real life scenario, some of the people who actually receive the message, they may not just respond back with one message. They may actually respond back with a multiple message. So what do I mean by that? It could mean that the contact, they will respond with things like, okay, sure, can you send me more info? Something like this. So this is what we at Exabloom, we classified as the contact sending a burst message. So we know that there's always going to be a chance that the contact will send a burst message, which is why we want to go back to our workflow, interest checker, and click on wait reply and make sure that handle burst message is ticked. And as a good rule of thumb, if it is a message that doesn't warrant an immediate response, it is always best to set it to, maybe you can set it to, a rule of thumb is 3 to 5 minutes. In my case, I'm just going to set it as 3 minutes over here. All right, so just save it. So once you have ensured that handle burst message is ticked and the system is going to wait for the next 3 minutes from the first contact response, you can actually safely assume that this will handle majority of the burst message scenario. So I hope this message is clear. I hope that after watching this video, you should have an understanding in terms of how you can select a contact from your contacts page and add it to this interest checker workflow.